Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it is 5:32. This is the July 6th, 2021 meeting of the Architectural Review Committee of the City of Palm Springs. Mr. Assistant Planning Director, please call roll.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Member Walsh is excused. Member Paline.
Here.
Member McCoy is excused. Member Lockyer.
Here.
Member Dozy.
Here.
Vice Chair Rotman.
Here.
And Chair Jakeway.
Here,
We have a quorum.
thank you. Could we please have a staff report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Committee, our agenda was published on Thursday, July 1st, 2021. So our meeting has been posted in accordance with state law.
Thank you. Do we have any revisions to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a move to accept the agenda?
I'll move to accept.
Dozy moves to accept. Second
Aye.
from Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, since this is a public meeting, audience members are permitted to comment on any issue that is within this committee's purview. Comments on an item appearing on today's agenda are made at the time that item is presented. If somebody would like to speak on an item that is not on today's agenda, you may do so now. Mr. Newell, do you know if we have anybody waiting to speak?
No specific requests to speak that we have received, but if anyone who is on the call this evening would like to speak, please unmute your microphone. You'll have up to 3 minutes. It doesn't appear that we have any requests.
Okay, I think we can move to the meeting minutes from the meeting of June 21st, 2021. Does anybody on the committee have any revisions to those meeting minutes?
Yeah, I'm not listed as present for some reason.
Okay,
I will correct that.
anything else? Okay, that is going to be part of our consent calendar. So let's move to item number 2 on the consent calendar. Stinky Leaf Dispensary requesting approval of a sign permit for one main sign at 43.5 square feet on the side of an existing building at 290 West San Rafael Place. The next item is number 3. Fire and Flower Cannabis Company requesting approval of a sign permit for one main sign on an existing monument sign located at 4810 East Camino Paracela. And the last one is, I think it might be pronounced Iconic Farms requesting approval of a sign permit for one main sign at 22 square feet placed on the front of an existing building located at 508 East Industrial Place. Do we have a motion from the committee to accept the consent calendar?
Chair, I'll move to accept the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Rotman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are now going to move to unfinished business. Denise Berry, this is item number 5. Denise Berry, owner for a major architectural application to construct a new 1,611 square foot single-family residence and an administrative minor modification application to reduce all setbacks of the development located at 105 West San Marco Way. Staff report, please.
I need to abstain from this item.
Okay, I'm sorry. Steve, do we still have an agenda? I mean, a quorum?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we still have 5 minutes.
Okay. Now we can have a staff report, please.
Thank you. So just a little refresher, the new single family home is located on a vacant lot along a major thoroughfare on the west side of Indian Canyon Drive. The applicant is proposing a 1,600 square foot residence with a new 450 square foot garage, detached garage, a pool and a spa, all within this property. The proposed home will mainly consist of a smooth dove gray stucco siding on all main walls. The exterior walls adjacent to the main entrance will be a dark gray, and a black brick will be placed on the same elevation as the front door, which will be a bright teal. During the last meeting, ARC had some comments regarding the landscaping. The material of the slanted portion of the shed roof and the rock that the applicant had proposed. I want to say that they have enhanced their landscaping significantly along the street frontages of San Marcos and Indian Canyon. They did change their proposed white rock to a crushed indigo. So it's gray, and it does contrast against the building color. They've provided, they've kind of kept everything else the same. They did provide a roof plan showing where the solar panels are going to be located on the roof. However, they did not change the roof texture. I'm sorry, material. It still is going to consist of a spray foam white. But the applicant is available and here for comments.
Okay, thank you. Is that the end of your report?
Yes.
Do you have any questions from the committee for staff?
Yeah.
Robert?
Under planning condition number 4, it says that the roof color needs to be, I believe it's tan or beige or something, but they are submitting for a white roof. Does that, how does that apply in this situation, given that they want to do a flat roof? I'm sorry, a foam roof.
Robert, I talked with Mr. Newell about that, and what I understand is it's normally the city's recommendation that the roof be beige or tan. However, as the architectural review committee, if we're comfortable with the roof being white, we can approve that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the staff? Okay, the applicant is here, I've been told. If you could please give us your name and a description of the project. You have 10 minutes.
Hi, my name's Paul Mostoller. I'm the draftsman for this project. So the homeowners wanted a house around 1,600 square feet. They wanted to keep it modest in scale. They also like contemporary and mid-century and minimalist design styles. We wanted to have several energy-saving features too, and we had to keep in mind, of course, that the property is on the corner of Indian Canyon. So noise and privacy would be a factor. So what we came up with was a single-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home at 1,611 square feet. Some of the mid-century elements we incorporated were clear story windows, sloped roof, wood overhangs, brightly colored front door, and brick accents. A few of the energy-saving items that we have are a charging station for their plug-in vehicle, solar panels to meet the entire usage of the home, not just the minimal requirement by Title 24, and then multi-zone air conditioning, and then just the scale of the home. There's less to heat and cool and less power needed. And then to address the traffic and privacy along Indian Canyon, we tried keeping the home discreet and opening minimal facing the road. We have a 6-foot tall CMU wall And we added trees between the house and the road. We took inspiration from courtyards, with the street sides being more private, but more open inwards, facing the yard and the pool and mountain view. And I think that's about if there are questions or comments.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Do we have any, first of all, next we would have public comments. Are there any comments from the audience regarding this specific project?
Oh, this is actually Denise Berry. I'm the owner of the home.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to add a few things to what Paul mentioned. So for the landscaping inspiration as well, we when we went back and kind of revisited this, we looked at Sunnylands, and I just love the reflecting pool there and what they've done. So you'll notice the inspiration there that we are using with the Golden Barrel, the Palo Verde, Museum Palo Verde, and we've also added some color with, I know there was a concern about that. So there's also the red yucca that you'll see planted in between the trees. And as we know, these trees do grow quite fast. So we do anticipate they will, as shown here in the rendering that Paul provided, provide much privacy, sound barrier, as well as a really lovely view from the street. And that's really all I had to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for responding to our comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public to comment? Okay, I think now we're ready for questions from the committee to the applicant. Any questions for Paul? Paul, the question I have is, the plan that we're looking at is pretty basic, and it doesn't indicate where the FAU are within the house or give any hint of ductwork. Are you going to be able to accommodate all of that equipment and the ductwork within the envelope of the house without needing to go up onto the roof?
Yeah, so we have a dropped roof in several locations. We're going to be using ducted mini splits. They're really slim. They're only about a foot deep. So in the master closet, where the roof is sloped, we'll actually have a dropped ceiling there, and that'll be the location of one of the interior units. And then over in the kitchen area, there's a pantry and laundry room that will locate the other unit.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Well, where's the master closet? How are you seeing that?
It's not labeled, but if you look on the plan, it's that long, narrow room, second from the bottom of the sheet, between the bedroom and the living room.
Gotcha. That's where the unit is, inside the closet?
It sounds like it's in the
Yeah,
attic space above the closet.
Because wasn't one of the comments last time around to not have anything facing or coming up on that roof facing Indian?
Correct.
Well, it wouldn't be on the roof. It would be located in the dropped ceiling area.
Oh, okay. I think we were also talking no pipe penetrations in their roof also. Vent pipes, exhaust pipes, etc. Condensate lines. Flues.
Yeah, so I did add, I know you wanted to see the equipment on the renderings. Alex, I don't know if we could go to the 3D perspective page. I believe it's A601. Yeah, thank you. So I did add the solar panels, the roof vents, the fireplace vent. Previously, I was showing aerial perspectives, and I think it may have been a little bit misleading. So I wanted to show them from like a more human scale. And you could see on the bottom right-hand corner, that would be the view from Indian Canyon. So it's pretty obscure. We wanted to keep the house pretty discreet just because of the traffic and airplane noise. And
Yep, but I think what we were asking for was not to have any vent pipes coming through that roof, not to hide them with wispy Palo Verde trees, but not to have them at all.
yeah, I think you were wanting that just because of the visual prominence from Indian Canyon.
For
is
sure.
my understanding. And the roof slope is very minimal. It's only 1.5 to 12. And you could see too in the perspective on the upper left side, that's looking at the home from the corner. And again, I just don't think any of those vents, I did add them to the renderings, and you could kind of see they're just not really visible at all.
But I'm saying they are, and that what we were asking for was to not have them. It's like to find a way to run them in the attic space or the joy space and not have them penetrate the roof on that side of the building.
Okay.
Can
Could
we-
I ask if everyone on the committee is in agreement in that regards?
I think that'll be part of our discussion, Paul. So we'll work through that as we discuss it after you speak. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the committee for Robert?
Yeah, so how are you going to handle trash storage? It doesn't look like there's a lot of room in the garage, and it doesn't look like it's called out on any of the side yards.
Alex, can we go to A301, the landscape plan? So to the west side of the house, there's a pedestrian gate along the site wall. This is going to be kind of the more functional part of the house. There's room for garbage recycling. We'll have like the pool equipment and kind of the more functional area right there.
Okay. And I saw somewhere that one of your plans is called out with lighting. Yeah, the A301 says site light landscape, but I didn't see any indication of what kind of site lighting you're proposing.
So as far as landscape light, we don't have any landscape light, but we do have light all along the perimeter of the building. On the south side, you could see there are wall sconces on either side of the wall, or I'm sorry, window. And then on the east side, we also have wall sconces to light up that side yard that they have. And then the front yard, we have wall sconces on either side of the front door, as well as some recess lights above the garage. And then recess lights.
Okay. Have you selected that sconce?
We don't have a specific light fixture yet.
Okay. And then in the last time we looked at this, I made a comment about the elevations being a little plain, and I'm still struggling with the front elevation, the San Marco Way elevation. The clear story windows above the 2 bedrooms from the outside look out of proportion for the wall. I mean, it just seems like there could be a better composition of windows on that wall, which is very plain. And the other thing is, and this is a personal thing, is I'm not a big fan of the extended, I don't know what the pop out along the roof line and then dropping vertically down, especially over that bedroom wing. So I'm just wondering if you might be willing to take another look at that elevation and maybe revise the proportion of the windows, maybe get them closer, tie them together in some way. It just seems to me the elevation needs a little bit more work.
And
Yeah, I think
Robert,
we're willing to look at.
Robert, may I ask Paul a question in response to what you just mentioned? Paul, on those little pop-outs, as I'm looking at the northwest rendering, are the inside wall faces of those clad in the wood and the wood runs along the soffit, along the top above the windows and garage doors, or is that a shadow line?
No, you're correct. The wood runs along that soffit.
And down the side legs?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, this is the owner, Denise. So the inspiration for that is actually an award-winning home in San Diego. It's called Avocado Acres. They did an approach similar to this, and I really loved the look of it. It's super, super sleek, modern. It looks really, I know the renderings, it's really hard to envision, but it's stunning. And I also love Eichler. I think that a lot of the Eichler exteriors, they are plain when you look at them from the front. They're sophisticated and simple. And I'm open to Paul going back and doing something maybe with these two windows you're talking about. But otherwise, I really, I think this design, you know, in my personal opinion, as the owner, my dream house, it really, you know, we're taking so many, I think, inspirations from Eichler and other mid-century homes. I just, I guess I'm at a little bit of a loss to see where this would be considered a plain or lacking, you know, when we're talking about, you know, some of the more restrained type of designs for mid-century. So that's just my, you know, honest feedback. But we're willing to please. I just don't know how many, you know, more. I guess you guys talk about this at the end in terms of, you know, what's going to be required and what's just kind of opinions and whatnot. So I'm learning in this process as well. But I just
Bill, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yes,
Yeah.
you're correct. We take your comments and listen to Paul's comments, and then we will have a discussion and give you a final
okay,
synopsis. So thank you for the input.
sure, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions from the committee for the applicant? Okay, then we will close the comment section from the applicant and we will have discussion from the committee. I don't agree with you, Robert, about those windows. I think the simplicity is nice. What I would question the applicant to be careful of, it doesn't look like those two bedrooms would have a legal egress window. It seems like the windows on the sides are very small. And I don't know if they would be large enough to comply with code. So the applicant needs to look at that carefully. And I can really appreciate all the landscaping that was added. Thank you very much. I don't think using Sunnylands as a concept really works in this case. I think they're just too much like little soldiers lined up in a row. I think if you were to take that landscaping material and let it be a little more natural in form, would make it just have a little more interest to it. I get the concept of it matching Sunnylands, but the only reason it works as Sunnyland is there's so much of it that it's just packed in like a full grid, where here they're spaced out too far, I think, to really create that character.
Could I make a comment about the egress windows?
Yeah.
Alex, is it possible, sorry, to go back to A301? So we did provide egress windows on the sides of the house for the bedrooms.
I see those. I was just questioning if they're large enough. If that satisfies code, great. I just wanted to make sure you recognize that.
Yeah, they do. I believe they're 6 foot tall by, I want to say 30 inches or 3 feet wide.
Okay. Any other committee comments? Oh.
I'm wondering about the landscape also, Tom, and I agree with what you're saying about, I'm not sure that the inspiration is matching the, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. When I look at it, I think that the inspiration is not quite as successful here in the placement and sizing of the plants. Again, I think if we're discussing amongst ourselves, I don't want to rely on the 24-inch box Museum Palo Verdes and that they're going to do the job of covering up the vent pipes on the roof and that maybe upsizing the trees quite a bit, but I still wouldn't give that vent pipe a pass there. I didn't want to see them modeled or wanted to see them disappear or not be placed within that roof at all. Figure out a way to reroute them, which can be done. Some of the things like even the plant materials on here and the sizing, there's the 1 gallon red yucca. I'm not sure how well that's going to last. And I don't know, the landscape seems a little contrived for me for something on major thoroughfare there. That's my feedback. I'd almost like to see some redesign, some boulders or something more interesting, some berming along that side. A little underwhelming along Indian Canyon.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments?
I have a comment.
Dan, I'm sorry, Dan Thompson.
I agree with you. I kind of like the front and the simplicity of it. I understand what they're trying to do there, and I think it achieves that. I agree with the landscape, though. I think maybe if they kind of undulate it a little bit up and down or something, or bring some more boulders in, like Sean said, would be better. It does, for being on a main thoroughfare, it does look kind of plain as far as the landscaping goes. I'd like to add to that. I agree with Chairman Jakeway's comments and also Sean's. And perhaps what they could do in looking at the landscape is along the Indian Avenue frontage, that could have some more berming and some of the looseness you were talking about. And if they wanted to maintain that geometry in the landscape, maybe that could occur more near the entry of the house and the driveway area, so that you could have a blending of a more undulating and bermed landscape as a buffer along Indian, and then it could transition around the corner into the more the geometry they're looking for, you know, either in their private areas or as you move towards the front door. And also the sizing of the plants. I agree with the 1 gallon plants. Would need to be at least raised to a 5 gallon.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, what I might recommend is that, based on the comments we've heard tonight, that if the committee is comfortable recommending approval, they might do so. And any design revisions be reviewed either at the staff level or with a subcommittee of the ARC.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. I was going to suggest the same. Since so many of our landscape issues are now handled by staff when we're having these re-landscapes that are doing the water saving landscaping, I think that your staff is getting a lot of experience with that. So I'd be comfortable with them reviewing that. So I'd make a motion that we approve the project with the condition that the landscape material be increased in size, that the material along the Indian Avenue frontage be in a more undulating and freeform sort of situation. Along San Marco, it could be either the more formal or the freeform. I think Mr. Dosey had a great idea with that. And that's my motion. And that it would be reviewed for final approval by planning staff for the landscape.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
we lost member Lockyer for a moment there.
Sorry about that. We had a flash here. Didn't catch the vote or the motion.
okay, the motion that I made was to approve it as submitted with the exception that the landscape material be increased in size, that the landscape placement reflect the discussion and the comments that Mr. Dosi made, and that the final approval of the landscape would be handled at staff level when they have their final submittal. That was seconded by Mr. Thompson.
Any way to add on the venting pipes on the roof, or is no one in agreement with that?
I'm not in agreement with that.
Okay.
And then we voted and it was approved, but we don't have your vote yet.
Okay, well then I'm a yes vote.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will move on to new business. Item number 6, Andrew Badger for a major architectural application and administrative minor modification application, excuse me, proposing a 395 square foot casita above an existing garage on a hillside lot located at 777 La Mirada Road. May we have a staff report, please?
You can see it. Okay. 1 second. So I want to start off by saying the applicant made a last minute revision to their proposal. The site plan that the floor plan that you'll be looking at in your staff report shows a casita, but they've actually modified it to be an accessory dwelling unit. And the difference is the ADU has a kitchen where the casita only showed a sink. So I just wanted to preface with that. The proposed ADU is located on a developed lot at the intersection of South La Mirada Road and West Sunny Dunes Road within the hillside area. The the property faces north with developed lots to the north and the east and vacant land on the south and west. The subject site consists of a single family home, a detached garage, and a swimming pool. The applicant is proposing to add a new ADU above the existing detached garage, which is located towards the front of the property along La Mirada Road. You could see that the floor plan now, this is actually, the floor plan that you're looking at now was the one that you see in your staff report. And this is the new proposed floor plan where it shows a full kitchen with the sink, microwave, stove, and all that pantry. This is the updated floor plan. The proposed ADU will be located directly above an existing permitted garage. It will contain a wraparound trellis, which wraps around the north and the east side elevations, and an exterior staircase on the south elevation. So this is the front and the rear. And then these are the side elevations where you can see that the existing garage is somewhat subterranean and the ADU is located directly on top. The applicant actually provided us with this image. It just shows the surrounding area along La Mirada Road. And you can tell on the west side, there's at least 3 single family homes that are 2-story. The 884 La Mirada is technically not considered a 2-story home, but at least the other 3 are. So that just gives you an idea of the surrounding area in relation to their proposal. So the applicant is proposing to match everything to the existing garage and single family home. So the doors, the windows, the color, the material, even the roof trellises will match this single family home. And you can see a corner of that home, the top left. These are some existing, I guess this is photos of the garage. You can see that some of it is located underground from both sides. And then this is just a street view showing the view from the street. So staff did recommend denial based on the inability to make all the findings in the listed in the hillside criteria. Specifically, the proposed ADU may restrict visibility from the surrounding properties and therefore may not be harmonious to the immediately adjacent properties. But that concludes my report, and staff, the applicant is available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee for staff?
I have a question.
Yes, Tom.
With the height of the garage and the addition of the proposed ADU, does that overall height meet what would be required as the setback from the street if it were a newly proposed structure? In other words, would it have to be set back farther based on the height?
The trellis would need to be set back farther, yes. And the
But the
casita,
main,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The ADU is proposed from the front property line. It does sit 26.5 feet back. If you measure that from adjacent grade, it's at, I believe it's at 17 feet high. So I don't believe that it meets the height requirement at that current location.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
John, yes, please.
So on page A104, there's an interesting diagram there, but I don't know that it's drawn accurately. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
So I can't quite tell where the setback is, but I'm guessing it's a dashed line somewhere around, well, frankly, I just can't tell. Based on this, it looks like a measurement from the front property line back 25 feet 9 1/8 inches is grid line C. It's only 9 inches south of a front yard setback. And then, but most of the building, if I'm looking at this right, the garage is already proud and in violation of the front setback. Is that right?
That is correct. So the existing garage, I believe, sits 18 feet from the front property line, and it is a permitted structure.
Gotcha. But then the addition of it, and then like there's an angular line that says existing grade line beyond. That's a gentle slope to it. And then there's this 12-foot dimension with a dashed line that's offset from that, I suppose, an existing grade line. But that's like an angular 12 feet. And if that's demonstrating height restriction, isn't it just 12 feet vertical and then a 4 to 12 pitch up from there up to 18 feet is the height restriction?
Correct, Member Lockyer, that is correct. Typically, that's the standard for single-family homes. As a casita, they can have a height of up to 15 feet, or an ADU, I should say, a height of up to 15 feet. So in the hillside ordinance, the city can establish the height, the relative height for a structure based on existing conditions. So that is something that is up to the discretion of the ARC or Planning Commission. So that's just something that we keep in mind. Also, the hillside ordinance does allow reduced front setbacks for hillside properties as low as 10 feet if an AMM is approved. So the building envelope and the front setback, there is a way to modify those standards for hillside properties.
Isn't there also a setback exception for ADUs as well?
There is on the side and rear property lines, yes. So that's as low as 4 feet.
4 feet on the sides, but front and back aren't modified?
Not by state law.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions of staff? if the applicant is present, you could identify yourself with your name and give us a presentation, please.
Yeah, hi there. This is Drew Badger. And thanks everybody for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys doing what you do and trying to preserve a great community and all the aesthetics that we've grown to love in Palm Springs. And I wanted to thank Alex and David for always being responsive to my questions and trying to educate me. I've not been through all this before. And so apologies, I guess, on the one front for our first plan not to actually show all the kitchen features. I thought just saying we were going to have a kitchenette was good enough. Apparently drawings matter. So apologies for that error on my part. And also my architect is on the call, Yasmani, as well. So Yasmani, please feel free to chime in with any of the technicals that have come up or may come up in future discussion. But yeah, I think you guys can see from the photos, the property, it's a unique property. It's set up, it's the last house up against the mountains there. Right behind it is Indian land and water department. So we have really very scant neighbors. And from this photo, what you can see to the right of the property, just in the view we're seeing, there's the large hedge between those properties. So they don't actually see any of my property. The only people that see the property are the ones directly in front of, which obviously are the ones who would have the greatest concern with growing a structure up right in front of their house. We're friends. We've talked about the project. They obviously received the package from you guys. And I think the main concern that they had, and in hindsight, so do we, is we had initially proposed to have a rooftop deck. So you would sit atop the roof and you would have panoramic views, but the downside is you would see right into the pool of the neighbors directly across the street. So one design change we're more than willing to make to accommodate them, and actually we don't want to look down at their pool either, is to remove that from the plans, and we're happy to submit a revision and remove the rooftop. But barring that, what you can see in one of the photos, and Alex, I'm sorry for moving you around, but if you look at the screenshot from looking directly at the garage as it is today, there's a large tree and hedges behind the garage structure. Yeah, I think that probably gets the gist. So the photo on the right shows that large tree. The tree is actually bigger today. There's also a hedge to the right of it. So as you build a structure atop the garage, the roof line is actually going to be lower than that tree and the hedge to the right of it. And again, to the right is not, that's just an access road to the water department. So there's no real view that could be obstructed there. And one other point I may not come clear is that the intended roof line, and now again, if we remove that rooftop deck, we would also be able to remove that 4-foot, I don't recall what it's called, but basically so people don't fall off the rooftop deck. We don't need that anymore if we don't have a rooftop. And then with the flat roof, that brings the overall height down. In either case, the overall roof line will be lower than the actual house roof line because we have vaulted ceilings in the main part of the house. So again, the intended structure, I don't think is going to change views because you see, again, we have some foliage behind it directly. And the ultimate roof line from one of the site sections is, you can see, is actually lower than the main part of the house. So our goal is to put together this additional room. And I know it doesn't really matter why I want the project, but for your awareness, now that I'm a fully remote employee because of COVID for the forever, this is intended to be my home office. And it's also ultimately planned to be a place where I can give care to an elderly parent. So that's why we intended to have a kitchen and bath and be a fully sustained unit today for work, tomorrow for care of an aging loved one. So anyhow, I think that's about all I have to say. And I guess as you guys get into the technicals, Yasmani is here to help you understand some of the renderings and some of the other points.
Thank you, Mr. Badger.
Okay.
Questions from the committee for the applicant and or the applicant's architect?
I have a question.
John.
Yeah. So on that same, thanks for your intro, by the way, there, Drew. On sheet A104, it's that's the one where I was asking about the diagrams. towards the rear of the property, which is I guess south, there's sort of a red dashed out line box. It says if ADU is built on the rear of property, it will overlook into side neighbor backyard and pool. Where are you going with that back there? I'm wondering.
Is that a question for David or Alex? Because
Well, for the first person that answers.
okay.
Sean, I think just as part of the history, there was staff discussion with the applicant about alternate locations to build the ADU on the property.
Yep.
And the question was, would it be appropriate to build it back on that portion of the property?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. That's your answer, but it's not, you say.
Yeah, a resounding no.
Okay.
Yeah.
What neighbor would you be looking on, though? I was wondering.
So to the left of the house, there's a neighbor and their lot is actually below our lot.
Okay.
And that's a property that's on the modernism tour. So I don't think we want to mess with their views and their aesthetics either. But the intention, it's an acre lot, so it seems big, but you can't actually access the back of the property, which is where, you know, one might intuitively think it would make sense to have an accessory dwelling unit. But if you do, you're going to be looking directly down into their backyard, and it would be, I don't want that. They don't want it. You won't want it once you see it.
Mm-hmm. Because the other question I had was, so I'm guessing that this was considered to be in the southeast corner of your lot. Because when you say to the left, I think you mean to the east is where you're.
It's southwest.
Say again?
Southwest corner.
Is where you were proposing it?
Yeah, that's where that section is cutting through, because it cuts through the garage and straight into the back. So
Yeah.
it'll be the southwest corner.
Yeah.
But your neighbor's all the way over on the east, right?
But that portion is higher in elevation in relationship with the neighbor.
Gotcha.
Yes.
The other question I was going to ask was, how about, have you, like, I appreciate you saying you wouldn't want the roof deck area because of looking into the neighbor's pool across the street to the north. It seems like the roof deck really makes this project. I don't know that it's 100% oriented on the correct side of the structure you're proposing, if it were me, but certainly it would be an attractive feature for the one using this structure. And where I'm going with this is, I wondered if you'd consider, or you had considered, sliding this second story structure further south, quite a bit further south, partially straddling the roof of the garage, partially not. So right now it appears to be, at least on this A104 sheet, 100% is covering, built atop of the existing garage. What if it were only 50% on top of the south end of the garage and 50% on top of the adjacent grade there?
Yeah. Yeah. And just, you know, I'd love it if you could all come out and look at the property. That is actually a really interesting suggestion and concept. The problem there is, if you did that, you would be actually consuming both that tree, that very mature tree, and the only walkway between the garage and the house. So that is the walkway that you would be consuming, and taking down the biggest tree on the property. So we did actually think about that, but we don't want to lose that tree, and we need that walkway, frankly. So
I'm looking at the aerial though, and the tree to the south of the garage is, I just happen to be on just Google Maps here. So this is the beauty of the Zoom calls. So it doesn't look like the largest tree. It looks like the two trees out proud of that to the north along the street are quite a bit larger. And is it a mesquite tree?
So Alex, do you have that? Could you shoot up that aerial for us again, please?
Because it looks like a mesquite tree to me, which.
Oh, yeah. You can zoom in on Google. We can't hear, I think, but yeah, I don't know. I guess this is one of those where pre-COVID, someone would have come out and been able to exclude some options that you'd need to see to believe. But I can just tell you, even without that tree idea, removal of the tree, we still, again, if with your idea of putting it half on land, half on garage, we lose our walkway, and that's an important walkway on this property.
Mhm.
And we're also, just one other thing, we're doing some other construction right now. It's not construction meeting. I don't want to plant that seed, but we're building a pizza oven and doing a built-in barbecue and all these things. And so those are also in that vicinity of where you're describing. So I think we would be cramming a lot in that area right there.
Well, yeah, that's up to you. I was thinking if we do two things, preserve the view from neighbors to the south, or to the north rather, by pushing the structure back and not blocking the view of the mountains.
Yeah.
And if it is in fact a mesquite tree, and it grows like a weed. So, I don't know.
It's a good, trust me, I like your idea. I just think when you come out to the property, you see what you lose as you proceed with that plan. I think it's not optimal, but I like it in concept. But I really think if you were to see it, you might want to recreate the concept. But it's not a bad one. It's just, I think for this space, once you're there, you lose too much with that plan.
Mhm. That's all, Tom.
Thank you, Sean. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Sure, Robert.
Yeah, so can you describe what the northeast corner of your property is like? Is it what the terrain is like? Would it be possible to put the ADU in that corner?
Northeast.
The northeast.
So can we, maybe that's another aerial. Okay, so from this, it would be upper right.
Upper right, exactly.
Okay. So unfortunately, no, that's a wash in our property. It's got a wash, and it's not where you want. It's too far from the house. We have like a water feature that goes along there too, and we would have to cannibalize that to do something there. And I honestly, the idea on the top of the garage is to minimize any additional rock removal. This property, the builder and the architect that built it originally in '97 are the same ones helping me today. Yasmani's helping or being advised by the original architect, but they removed so many boulders. I think they, I don't know how to describe, but doing that all over again, I just think the cost and the time and the effort is just not worth it when you can really just use a structure that's already there as the foundation. That was the thinking anyway.
Okay, and then so just maybe this is a question for the architect. So if you remove the roof terrace, how far down are you going to bring the parapet? So what would the overall height from the front of the garage be, as opposed to being currently at 22 feet? How far down would that come?
If we take the existing floor of the garage to the new parapet, will be 19 feet, 1 inch.
Okay, and then obviously the plan changes because you don't have the exterior stair.
Correct.
So would that become more patio space, or what would you do at that point?
We'll just, I think we're using the bottom of the stairs, understairs has storage, so we'll keep it as storage just to break the tallness of the wall back there.
So, but that's on the
south side.
But with that, I mean, you're losing the diagonal line of the stair rail at that point.
Correct.
And so it's just going to come across flat as a rail wall.
Yes, I think we could do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, Drew. Hang around. I'm sure we'll have a few more questions.
Okay.
Do we have any public comments from the audience on this particular project? It doesn't appear that we do. So committee members, discussion. I do have one question for staff. It appears there has been no landscape plan submitted, that all the existing landscape remains. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Well, my comment would be, first of all, seeing these drawings with some color on them makes it so much easier to see what's happening. I didn't really realize that the upper level was set back so much from the face of the garage, so it makes it a much more appealing building to me. I think removing that parapet that surrounds the sun deck does a lot for working on the scale, and it takes us out of a building height issue. And I think if we pick on Robert's comment and at least move the upper floor back the 3.5 feet that was the width of the stairway, so it would still sit over that storage area that was created in the garage. Every little bit of extra layering, I think, will make this project more interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
I'll comment. I was originally inclined, because of the height and the proposed 22 feet and the two-story structure being at the street level. And I know I went out and drove by the house, so I did see that the main house is further back and probably of a similar height. But the presence from the street was a concern for me to have a two-story structure. So I was originally inclined to vote no against this project, but with the reduction of the parapet height and the loss of the rooftop deck, although I do like the feature, and then Tom's comment about the layering, or my commenting about maintaining some layering, I think actually, I think this could be a good project. So I would be in favor of it.
Thank you, Robert. Other comments from the committee? If nobody has anything in addition to say, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. And just to codify that they are removing the rooftop deck and reducing the parapet height so that it's 19 feet 1 inch, and that they maintain the railing across the, I don't know what elevation that is. Is that the east elevation? So that it adds some layering to the building.
Do we have a second? I would second that, but I'd ask Robert to please clarify. I didn't get your comment about layering on the east elevation. You mean where this angled stairwell is shown?
Yes, exactly. That they maintain a railing across there so that you get a walkway at the ADU level, or a patio or something.
So then what you're suggesting is the railing would come horizontal right 3 feet above the landing of these stairs, and we would not bring the unit further back from the street.
That's correct.
Okay. With that clarification, will still second the motion.
I just have one question.
Tom.
So it will not be moved back the additional 3 feet that was requested or suggested?
You know what? I'll revise mine and say that it should be moved back. Although, no, I'll keep it originally. I'll keep it as original. I think it's nice to have that extra layering on the building.
From the street, so we will move it back to take up the spot where the stairwell had been.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
And it was seconded by myself.
Yes.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Badger.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we probably have a recusal at this next item. Item number 7, Pinnacle View LLC owners for a major architectural application to construct a 4,469 square foot single-family house on a hillside lot located at 2277 Morning Vista Drive in the Pacific Palisades specific plan.
Tom, I'm gonna,
Thank you, Sean. Sean, Mr. Lockyer is leaving the meeting. And staff, may we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. So just make sure you see the full screen with the drawings here. Does everyone see the full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the request before you is a new single-family residence in Desert Palisades. It is located on lot 37 within the development, and will consist of a 4,469 square foot residence. The proposed home is located, or the street, the lot that the proposed home is being located on is near the center of the project, of the overall Desert Palisades project on the northerly portion of that site. What you see here on the screen is the proposed rendering. This was not part of your packet, so I do want to note that this is different from what you've seen. They've updated the renderings to what you see here, and I have some additional renderings that I wanted to share with you based on the revisions that or the proposed revisions that have been done to the drawings or to the renderings. So this is the street view of the project. This is where the pedestrian entry would be located. The driveway is on the left side. They've provided these additional renderings here that show the pedestrian walkway near the center of the front of the lot. And to the right of that is what you see next to the pedestrian entry, which is a pass-through area that is also serves as a seating and fireplace area. Looking at it from the rear of the property, what you see is obviously the proposed home, as well as the outdoor pool area and gathering space. And this is just an additional rendering of the interior gathering space or back patio seating areas. And so this is the site plan showing the house. You can see the access for the driveway is located on the east side of the property with the 2-car garage. It also has additional storage space located off of the driveway there. And it has a side access garage, which complies with the specific plan for locating the garage not visible from the street. You also see the pedestrian pathway to access the front door, as well as the layout of the 3-bedroom home. You can see here the proposed landscape and mix of different appropriate plant materials that are being considered for the project. The pool is located on the south side of the development or of the lot. You can see the pool equipment is located to the south at the southeast corner of the lot. This is the variety or the ground cover that is being proposed is located in more towards the interior of the lot or the adjacent to the home. And then this is the proposed configuration of the floor plan. You can see the main living area is at the center of the home with the 3 bedrooms located at the southerly westerly portion of the site. The garage, as you saw on the site plan, located on the opposite end. This is the proposed roof plan. And these are the proposed elevations. You can see that the home is proposed about 11 to 13 feet in overall height. This, again, the elevation plan view. And that is the proposed drawings. So the project was evaluated against the architectural review criteria in the city's hillside ordinance, the architectural review ordinance, and as well as the standards and guidelines in the Desert Palisades specific plan. Staff found that the project met those criteria, and because the city, because this is going through under the new architectural review process, we have also included conditions of approval for your consideration. So this, if approved this evening, would be final decision by the ARC. And we recommend that you adopt the conditions or accept the conditions that we've provided for you as a part of the backup materials to your staff memo. With that, I'll conclude my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. Any questions from the committee for staff? David, may I ask a question of the engineering staff?
Yes. Mr. Manhares is here.
On the north side, which is along the street, and the west side, the house is really sunken down into the lot, and it appears that they're using large boulders to create the retaining for those two walls. At the northwest corner, the boulders are retaining, the way I read the grading plan, 7 to 8 feet of dirt. Does the city accept boulders as a retaining wall if they are not engineered, or if there is no concrete, rebar, anything? Does just piled boulders in itself work as a retaining wall?
No, we would not. So they would have to prove to us that the structures that they're proposing are going to be able to indeed retain the water and let it percolate the way it's supposed to. So they would have to prove that through their hydrology study. And I'm not sure if ARC is aware, but the properties in Palisades are not only required to do a hydrology study, but they're also required to do individual water quality management plans as well. So there's a lot of engineering that goes into those retention basins. We have seen some boulders used on some of the projects, but they're part of the basin. So they really have to do their work to make sure that they're going to work properly.
And to clarify, these walls that I'm talking about were not part of the retention basin. They are retaining earth. They're there to set the grade, where the grade at the street is about 8 feet higher than the grade at the finished floor of the house. So that earthen wall is held up by the boulders.
Yeah, they would really need to be able to prove that it's going to meet all of those standards. And
okay.
There's a few of them where we've made them go back to the drawing board because we just didn't feel it was strong enough.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff?
I have a question for David.
Yeah, Tom Dosey.
David, within the design guidelines, is there any recommendations about lighting and landscape lighting as to the effect or the maximum number or minimum number of lights?
Sorry, let me make sure I'm not muted. Okay, good.
Okay.
So there are standards within the Desert Palisades specific plan. So if you look at table 6, we talk about a variety of landscape requirements for the, so that's on page 18 of the report. So those are relative to the plant materials. I'm just trying to make sure. I believe there is a section in here that talks about landscape lighting. So let me just make sure I look at that. So on page 13, exterior lighting. Use sparingly, describe how light pollution is achieved, or how light pollution control is achieved, how light spillage onto adjacent properties is avoided. Low intensity light sources, landscape accent lighting to be properly shielded and baffled.
Okay, so it doesn't really say any specifics on numbers or quantities or
No.
just shielding and use sparingly.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. On the roof plan, I didn't see solar panels. Do we have a location for solar panels?
We will ask the applicant when we can have a chance. That's a good one. Any other questions of staff? Okay, if the applicant can identify yourself, please. You have 10 minutes to present the project. Give us your name.
Hello, I'm Nick LaFaro from Studio Arity Architects. Thank you, David, for your presentation. I know that it was Glenn Malacher who put the staff report, but he's on vacation. So thank you for stepping in and filling in for him. I wanted to address some of your first questions to staff. Thomas, actually, David, are you able to pull up that last landscape plan that you had up? We do have a detail for these boulder retaining walls that we're proposing. It's an engineered detail we've used a couple of times here in Desert Palisades and in other hillside homes where the boulders are at a 1.5 to 1 slope, and they sit on top of geofabric. So it's something I think that we can work out with Rick Manjarison and Public Works to solve this. But if you see along within the front yard setback, we've got these staggered trees, and then you see this vertical line. What we're proposing there is a kind of a combination of boulder retaining walls and also this steel picket retention basis, which you could, or wall, which you can actually see in the first rendering that David showed. So we know that we're not just fully relying on these boulders, but we're going to be engineering this this naturally rusting steel retaining system also, which we think is going to be a cool feature from the interior of the property. So we're imagining these are vertical steel pickets that are set at different angles, and you're actually able to kind of look through them and see the earth and the boulders that they're retaining. So we think it's going to do double duty for engineering and aesthetics for us. So other question from Tom Dosey. We are proposing a lot of landscape lights. We do plan on reducing those by 30%. I think it's at like 90 something right now. So we're going to get that down to about 60, 65 landscape lights on this project. For the solar panels, yeah, we're not showing them on these plans, but we're planning on having those on top of the garage and the southern portion of the roof over the living room. So if you kind of focus on the living room portion of this roof, we have this east-west running doghouse, a little to your right there. Yeah, we've got this mechanical enclosure doghouse. And we would get solar panels to the left, to the south of those. So those solar panels would be screened from the street. One thing we do like about this project is that it's different from a lot of these other Desert Palisades homes we're seeing, where you're stepping up to the project. I think every home up there right now you're kind of stepping up into, and we liked having this thing kind of enter and you're actually sloping down towards the front entrance. And we have these large monolithic concrete walls that are kind of keeping a little mystery from the street, giving an entry sequence as you kind of walk up towards the entry and snake around and in between these concrete walls. Even when you first enter the house, your view isn't directed towards towards the grand view of the valley, but we're creating this sequence of events and volumes too. You're entering at a lower volume once you turn left and head south. You're opening up into a higher volume and really capturing these southeast views to the valley. We're fortunate enough to have this natural arroyo that will never have anything built on it to the south. And that really just helps this site feel long. Across that arroyo is one of the only other existing homes up there, which is lot 50. And we did orient this house not only for the views of the valley, but to help not have to stare at that home too. We wanted these inhabitants to feel like they're by themselves in this property. So that kind of helped guide the orientation. Back to materials, we've got concrete, cast in place concrete, using 3 foot by 5 foot concrete plywood panels with cone shaped form ties. We have these naturally rusted retaining walls, steel retaining walls, and boulder retaining walls. We're using smooth and heavy textured integral stucco throughout the project. We're going with kind of this darker gray stucco color. If you look at the left image, to complement, well, not to complement, but to contrast the natural gray, standard gray concrete. We're also trying to utilize as many boulders and natural landscape and elements as we can for this project. It's a contemporary home in appearance and design, lots of straight lines focused on indoor, outdoor activities. We've got a lot of different outdoor zones that we're trying to bring in throughout the project. We've got this fire pit that's, as you see here on the right, we've got a fire pit, outdoor showers, outdoor water features, just anything we can do to engage this site and frame views to things of interest. Other than that, we're excited to present this project. We think it's different than what we're seeing up there in Desert Palisades right now, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
One question or comment I have, on your exterior elevations, none of the numbers in the bubbles that point to the plans match the numbers on your legend. So it's very difficult to read this plan and understand what's where.
My apologies. I actually saw that this morning as I was skimming through.
The front of the house is formed concrete in the 3 foot by 5 foot pieces. And then I was always very confused about the steel fence. So they're individual pickets and there'll be a airspace of an inch or two between them, and they just march along in a straight line on either side of the entry walkway.
That's right. And it's really—
But they're forward of the boulder retaining. They're towards the house.
They're towards the house, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think the concept of kind of burying this is really, really nice. And I'm not against that boulder retaining wall at all. I think it will be beautiful. I just want to make sure it'll happen. But I think that kind of burying the house in that natural landscape is quite nice. But one of the things is, and this is a question that I ask on every Palisades house, I don't see any pool fencing, and I don't see any fencing that even separates the driveway from the rear yard. I mean, is it true that somebody can just walk up the driveway and be standing by the pool, or is there something that hasn't been on the drawings yet?
I think for this project, we will have fencing that divides the driveway from the rear yard. And for fencing around the pool, that's something we've been working with closely with building inspectors throughout that process. And a lot of times we're utilizing boulders to get the height that we need. And I think for this project, we could utilize that same detail that we're using on the front, the steel pickets, throughout the street and possibly around the pool too. If I'm able to share my screen, I do have some inspiration photos for that steel.
while you're putting that together, my experience has been that they will not accept boulders as a pool barrier because you can climb up the boulders. It has to be a vertical surface.
Okay, Nick, I think you're good to go.
So this is our concept, something we've seen before in action. Where these vertical steel plates are set at various angles with about 1 inch to 2 inches in between and are allowed to help retain. I think it's also very complementary to Desert Palisades in terms of color and material.
So are these just cantilevered out of the ground, or is there something holding the tops of them from moving around?
We would have something, maybe not at the very top, but we would have something maybe 2/3 of the height up horizontally that would tie all of these together, and they'd be set on a continuous concrete footing.
Okay. And my last question or comment is, I'm very concerned about the roof. As I look at the grading plan, the finished floor of the house is 926. When you take a 12-foot high top of fascia, that's at 938. The street is at 940. So you're going to be standing substantially above this house if you're out on the street towards the northwest corner. How much design influence did you take to make that roof a very interesting looking element, because it will be so visible? It seems like those duck chases are all just kind of arbitrary, and especially the fact that they're just covered with the membrane roofing on the sides and the top makes them seem like the old buildings we see here where they just spray the foam right over the air conditioning ducts and it's all just up there.
Well, I think we do a good job of keeping our roofs clean, and I think utilizing these dog houses with our vents, we're not going to have any roof penetrations coming through it. We don't have it designed yet, but we're looking at designing maybe an intricate fireplace chimney that helps add some interest to this roof. I think the concrete walls and parapets will help screen the roof as much as we can too. And material, I know on our material board we're showing a tan color for the roof. After, for a moment, Desert Palisades on lot 50, we used 2 colors there. We used a light tan because we thought it was going to help blend into the site, but actually did the opposite. We used that on our upper roof. On our lower roof, we used a light gray, which complemented the gray stucco that we used. And actually, that's what we'd like to propose on this project also, is a light gray membrane that'll help tie in at the roof as a part of the architecture rather than some afterthought also.
Well, I just think on this particular house, I know in most houses you don't see this dog houses, but at least if the dog houses were clad in a material that was more common to the exterior facades of the building instead of the flat roofing, I think could be a huge improvement.
Yep. What we have done in the past too is rather than run the roof membrane, we have done stucco on the sides of these dog houses, but they just don't hold up as well. So I think by finding and selecting a gray roof membrane that complements the stucco that we're proposing, I think it's going to look more uniform and help tie this in.
Other questions from the committee for the applicant? Dan.
I have a question. It's kind of a lame question, but I'm looking at the floor plan and I don't see a laundry room.
It's the pantry. So can we pull up a floor plan there, David?
So you're gonna have just a washer and dryer inside the pantry closet?
Yes. Right there. So in the pantry, the washer and dryer would be located at the left, at the southern. Actually, no, that's the sink. Right where his mouse is, right there, it's got a washer and a dryer.
Okay, I was just kind of curious, wondering where you're going to do your laundry.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thomas, what we can do is look at revising our doghouse and simplify our HVAC runs to really minimize those doghouses as much as possible. And we will do that.
And I would suggest at least discussing some alternate materials like a standing seam metal or a zinc cladding or concrete panels, anyway.
No, that's a good idea because we are using these black brake metal eaves on the south. So that is something that we can look at using and incorporating black metal.
I totally get it that those little short plaster walls just don't work.
Yeah.
If you were trying to plaster those.
Mm-hmm.
Any other committee members with questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah, Nick, I thought I heard you say that some of the solar panels are going to go over the garage. Is that true?
We're looking at two locations. We were looking at the garage and south of the doghouse, right there over the living room.
Yes, the question that Tom brought up about being so visible from the road because it's so much higher is that the ones on the garage, I think, are going to be very visible.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering whether there might be a better location or maybe, I don't know what the height of your parapet is there, but I think it's still going to be very visible on the garage.
Yeah, because the top of our garage is at 10'1", and the parapet of the top of the concrete wall is 13 feet. So we've got about a 2'9". Once we get like our roofing material and slope into it, 2'8" height difference there.
But is that the same parapet height? Is your parapet the same height on the south, on the south wall of the garage?
No, that is 11'10". So that is only, yeah.
The southwest wall. So that one.
Yep. That's 11'10". So that is a foot lower than our concrete wall.
Yeah, I might just think more about the location of the panels on the garage.
Okay.
Other committee questions? If there's no more questions from the committee, do we have any public comments? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment on this particular project? It doesn't appear so, so thank you. Nick, stay by. We'll probably have some more questions as we have our discussion. Committee members, comments, questions?
I'll make an additional comment.
Yeah.
I still think, especially up in that area, that the number of landscape lights could be reduced further than 60, particularly along, maybe I believe it's the west side on the back side of those bedrooms. And as you get towards the edges of the property, I think as the project builds out, to be respectful of the adjacent properties, I think in the courtyard and behind the walls and some of the accent plants and pool area, it's important, to do uplighting on some of the specimen plants and even on the structure. But I think the lighting could be reduced even greater around the perimeter of the project.
Thank you. Other comments? One comment I would make is all these houses now are going to have solar panels, and it's like everybody used to try to hide their TV in their den, but finally they become kind of a focal point. I think it's the same with solar panels. I think you could use the solar panels as a design element on the roof. I would never want them up above a parapet, but because of the unique situation here where you're literally above the house looking down, maybe the placement of those panels could be something that's a benefit to make the interest of this roof. And I would also comment that I think it's a beautiful project.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll just,
Robert?
yeah, I'm in agreement. I think it's a very nice project. I like much more the direction of the steel walls at the entrance. The original ones were kind of questionable, how they would actually look and work, but I like the idea of what you've come up with. And I would agree to be with member Dozy about reducing the number of landscape lighting. It's, as you look up at the hill from below, it's although this is a development, I think, that's of houses and stuff, I think it's really important to maintain the night sky and not really become a spotlight on the hill. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion for approval of the project with the comments that have been listed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Robert Rodman, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Okay, our last item. Item number 8, Raising Canes for a sign program amendment to the Destination Ramon Shopping Center, establishing sign criteria for the quick service restaurant located at 5601 East Ramon Drive. Is Sean able to rejoin us? Yes, he is. Thank you, Sean. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, just let me switch screens here. Just one moment. Okay. So the item before you, Chair and Committee, is a sign program for the Raising Cane's drive-through restaurant that will be going in at 5601 East Ramon Road. It is, the building is replacing the Office Depot that was there previously with this new drive-through restaurant. So let's see. The applicant is proposing a signs on each elevation, and the existing siren program that was approved for this shopping center permits that type of signage. The applicant does seek additional signs beyond the primary sign identification. So we've outlined that in the table shown on page 4 of your report. You can see that they are proposing a main sign, and it's also shown here on the screen. They're proposing the main sign at roughly 30 square feet, 31 square feet in size on each of the elevations. They're also requesting a mural that's 112 square feet on the Ramon Road frontage, the north elevation, as well as 2 graphics facing the south side of the building, which is the primary location where customers would enter the site to go to the destination. They will also be installing signs on the monuments that are existing there at the shopping complex, and we'll have some additional customer convenience signs. That includes the menu boards. So when looking at it in the elevation view, you can see here the east elevation is just the one main sign. The south elevation are 3 total signs. The main sign Then there's also the One Love sign, which you see on the left side of the graphic here on the bottom. And then there is a proposed graphic on the right side of the screen here. The west elevation, as shown here on the top, is also the same main sign that you see on the other elevations. And that would be the only sign generally for that elevation, other than convenience signs that indicate that the business is open. We also have on the north side of the building the main identification sign, as well as the mural identification sign. So this does require a sign program that deviates from our zoning code standards, as I indicated in the table that you saw a few slides ago. But you can see here, this is the primary sign that's shown on each elevation. It's 8 feet wide by about 4 feet high. This is the mural graphic that is 14 feet wide by 8 feet high. And then this is the One Love graphic that I showed you on the left side of the south elevation. And then the right side of that graphic, or of that elevation. This is the existing monument sign that they're proposing to install a main sign on, occupying half of one of the panels on that monument sign. And then this is the menu board signage that is being proposed, as well as a preview menu board also being proposed. So staff has indicated in the staff memo that there are 3 findings that the ARC would have to make to approve a sign program that deviates from the zoning code. Those are shown on page 3 of your report. Staff is recommending approval of this application. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. Questions from the committee for the staff?
Question. I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
David, would you mind going back to that site plan and just walk me through the circulation pattern for the drive-through?
Sure. So you can see the site is fronts on San Luis Rey Drive on the west side, and then on the north side it fronts Ramon Road. Vehicles enter the property through the existing driveway that is currently there at the center. It's not kind of just south of what you can see here on the screen, but it's, or below what you can see on the screen. That's kind of the main driveway, and vehicles enter from a driveway that is located at the southeast corner of this property. And the vehicles would stack on in either of these 2 lanes to place their order, and then they would continue around the building where they would get pay for the order as well as pick up their orders. And then they would exit on the west side of the building when they leave the drive-through back through the southeast access point to the project site. There's also parking you can see here directly in front of the building, as well as some outdoor seating spaces. So that's kind of the circulation pattern.
So the question I have, there's a break in the median over on the east. I assume that's the east side, and it looks like the cars they place the order on the east side, and then they cross over the median and they pick up the order on the north side of the building. But then there's this other lane that's north of that. What is that? What is that lane?
I believe that's what happens is, depending on how busy they are, they may utilize that lane with drop-off orders where someone who works at the restaurant would come out and deliver an order to a car that's waiting in that second lane. But if they're not that busy, then they would use only the 1 lane. But I'll let the applicant clarify that if I'm wrong.
Okay. And then one of the conditions or comments the staff made was to shield the menu signs from the right of way. So can you explain what your concern is there?
Correct. So in our ordinance, we indicate that drive-through facilities shall be adequately screened from adjacent public right-of-ways and from adjacent properties. And so we've indicated that the menu boards are located on the north side of the building, which is adjacent to the right of way. We would recommend that those items be appropriately screened. And that can be achieved through landscape or some other hard improvement like a wall or a berm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Does committee, anybody else on the committee have questions for the staff? Okay, if the applicant can give us their name and a brief presentation, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mia Rondoni. I represent Raising Cane's. We're the permit expediters at the permit place. And I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for staying late today. I know it's getting kind of late for everybody, so thank you so much. Basically, David, thank you for taking care of the staff report in Glenn's absence, but he summed it up for us. We are looking to get the signage that he proposed in his report. A couple of points, two of the items, one of them is a painted mural. And this is actually something that a lot of jurisdictions will consider art. This is actually a hand painted mural on every location. It's done by an artist that's flown all over the US, all over the world. And he comes out and he does these by hand. And they're just a beautiful painting that's done to represent Raising Cane's. So that's one of the art pieces, as well as the red dog is actually a digitally printed graphic on aluminum substrate, which is then bolted to the wall. And this actually represents Cane, who is the mascot of Raising Cane's. He's the dog that this restaurant is based off of. So he's a big part of the Raising Cane's brand. And we're just here trying to get approval, and whatever the commission needs from us, we're definitely able to accommodate. I did make a note about shielding the menu boards from the adjacent properties, and I'm sure that's not going to be a problem either. So we are really here to accommodate whatever is needed for us to bring our beautiful restaurant to your town.
Thank you, Mia. Before we have questions for the applicant, I have another question for staff. David, would that mural and or the dog need to go to the Palm Springs Arts Commission?
Not if it's approved under a sign program.
Okay.
If the committee says no, I don't think staff would have the ability to process it under the art mural program, because it really is related to the commercial enterprise that's at the site.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, any questions or not? What are there questions from the committee for the applicant? I have a question, and Mia, I don't know if you remember the drawings or can see them, but on the north drive-through where you have the large Cane's mural, there's a bar above that mural. Is that a light fixture?
No, it's a clearance bar. So it's so trucks aren't too high that drive under it. So it's,
okay, thank you.
Of course.
Oh, and then also in several very small places, you have cove lighting on the top of the, well, it's on each of the drive-through pieces and at the entry pieces. Is that cove lighting really very effective? What is it? How bright is it and how's it built?
It's actually just, it's not anything, it's not neon. It's just kind of a downwash for the building. Hold on, I can actually bring up a photo of what we've done in previous locations. But no, it's not anything neon. It's just kind of a, it's just to light up the bottom of the building, or the top of the building, I'm sorry, and kind of just create a downwash effect.
Is that what's, sorry, can I
Go ahead,
jump in on that, Tom? Is that what's to light the painted mural?
No, that's actually, it goes around the top of the building.
Yeah.
Mia, another question I have, you have the words "One Love." Could those be pushed to the right? And my thinking is that right now from Ramon Road and from San Luis Rey, you're gonna see the back of the word one. And I think that might look a little weird, where if the two words were slid to the right side of that awning, then everything would be in front of a wall of the building instead of a void behind the building.
I see. So are you wanting us to move it? Let me take a look. I have the drawings in front of me here. So you're wanting us to move it, you said to the left,
To the right.
to the right?
See, right now it's right to the very left of the awning. So the word one, you're seeing the back of it from out on Ramon Road. Where
I
if
see.
you move it to the right, then it would be totally
Behind the building.
backgrounded by the building, yes.
Understood. Okay. I will definitely make a note about that. Okay.
Any other questions from the committee for the applicant? Okay, do we have any public comments on this item? It appears not. Committee comments and feelings.
Maybe a question also, if that, I don't know if Mia quite understood what you were asking, Tom, about that bar above the painted mural, because how is that painted mural being lit?
Oh, I apologize. I thought he meant the bar above the drive-through. So yes, there is a bar with light fixtures that is above the mural, and that's how it is lit. So it's downlit, pointing at the mural only.
Hmm.
Thank you, Sean, for clarifying that.
Yeah, apologize about that. Thanks, Sean.
It didn't seem right, but what's the color temperature of that and the
I know that it's a shielded LED lighting. So it downwashes the building.
yeah. And those light coves that you were referring to, maybe it's on the detail, although let's see it. What's the
You can see it on their page 7, Sean.
yeah, I see it. Page 17, you mean?
No, 7.
Is it
There.
labeled page 17?
I know, page 7. On this one that David has on the screen, you can see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Tom, I was looking for the detail because I wanted to see what type of light that was using in there also.
Let me see if there's a cove
In
lighting.
other words, like color, temperature, and intensity.
Okay, yes, if you go to page 13 of the plans, it should be in there. It talks about liquid type, cove lighting section.
It's an ILT-1X1W30
30, yeah.
black LED. Or be okay. I guess it's
Actually, I have a photo of an example if you guys would allow me to share my screen.
that's okay. We might want to clarify on the drawings or something.
Okay, this is what it looks like right there for you. So the cove lighting is up top.
Yeah, page 17 is a good detail, a cut sheet through the cove lighting.
Yeah.
So a question of staff, this came up, David, when we looked at the Shell gas station across the street from this. Are those coves technically considered signs here in the city of Palm Springs?
I think in that instance, that was considered a sign because it was part of their corporate color and their corporate identity. I don't know if these are accent lights that are standardized as a part of their corporate color or not. So
Yes, they actually are at all sites.
Okay.
So I think the difference with this one is that it's in specific locations versus the entire perimeter of the
Right.
canopy.
And David, have we received a landscape lighting plan? Is there additional lighting outside of the building that's going to be lighting this facility?
The lighting that was approved as part of the major architectural application would have been what would
Okay.
be applicable.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one question. So
Sure, Tom.
item D, the mural, right now, we're just looking at a placeholder. It will be a different mural, or is this considered the mural?
That's the mural. So it's the same across all Raising Cane's locations. The only thing that differs is the city name written on the bottom, or painted on the bottom, I should say.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Any additional comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Hey, Dan?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to screening the menu boards. And also moving the One Love further to the right so that the one is obscured by the building and not seen from Ramon.
And can we add to your motion that that we're using the 3 items listed under zoning code requirements as page 3 as the justification for approving this?
Of course.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Steve. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Mia.
Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, that concludes our agenda. Do we have any committee member comments?
I guess I have one, or it's maybe a question, David. A project like that one, which I think this happens from time to time around the city or strip malls or buildings like this. But like, what happens if the light intensity is just foul, and like 5,000 Kelvin, or metal halide or something, or you can imagine if it's bright white like a hospital, just washing that down. It seems like how do we go back to that, or them, is it even possible to get that dimmed down or changed once we approve it?
Yeah, I mean, there's some provisions in our sign ordinance that talk about glare and intensity. So if it becomes a problem, there's some reference that we can point back to and hopefully address it. Usually applicants are most of the time willing to do it. So in those cases, we have referred back to that section to have them either reduce intensity or modify the temperature.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, David, any staff member comments?
No, just appreciate everyone coming tonight and getting through our first ARC meeting.
Yes, there we go. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.